Welcome to our monthly sync up with Protect for the Protect stage, and we've got a lot coming out in 14.6, so we don't have a huge group here. I know a lot of people couldn't make it, but I wanted to record for everyone's benefit and just talk briefly about some of the things we have coming out in 14.6. So the first one on the list here is support for SAST scan execution policies. So we've been making some really good progress there. We added support for DAST initially. We added support for secret detection policies, and now we're adding in support for SAST. SAST is really complicated because there are a lot of different things that can be configured. So it is worth noting that we just run SAST the way it's configured by default. Like if you turn on auto DevOps and run SAST, that's how we run it. So we don't have support for all of the different options that there are to configure SAST scanners yet. Most notable is anything that requires you to feed in a pre-compiled binary into the SAST job will not work with this as of yet. So it just runs the default out of the box auto DevOps, SAST scanner with those default settings. We are letting you customize one variable. So if you want to turn off some of the SAST analyzers specifically, you can do that. But otherwise, that's the only variable you can customize right now. But that opens us up, of course, to iterate more in the future. And there are only a few languages that require you to feed in pre-compiled binaries anyway. So we're hoping that this meets at least 80% of the use cases, and we can clean it up and follow it up to address the other 20% later on. The second big item is one actually that was requested by this group, I think by Samir a while ago, but we are going to start including any system level dependencies that we find as part of the container scanning job. We're going to include those in GitLab's dependency list. So it provides a more complete SBOM for customers to review. And instead of just the application dependencies like your NPM and Python packages that are being used, it's also going to show all of the operating system package manager packages that are installed, from your apt or your yum package manager, or what depends on which package manager you're using, but those will show up in the dependency list right alongside everything else that was being shown there before. And then the last big thing we've got coming out in 14.6 is custom, this one's really hard to explain, it's kind of a mouthful of a sentence, custom container scanning vulnerability deduplication. But really what this is some customers are not able to use container scanning because they have a naming strategy for their images that puts the branch name in the image name, like as part of the image name itself. And when this happens, the logic for deduplicating vulnerabilities and matching which vulnerabilities are new versus which ones already exist in the default branch, it just falls flat on its face and it breaks. So, basically because every time a developer creates a separate branch, it now has a different name in that image. And so it looks at it as though it's a totally new vulnerability. So it basically makes it unusable by these customers because when you go to try to create a merge request, it shows that all of the vulnerabilities were newly introduced and doesn't say, it doesn't identify any of them as pre-existing in the default branch. So what we've added in is a new variable that allows users to basically specify what that pattern is for matching so that it gives customers the ability to name their images whatever they want and not have to worry about this breaking. They can just set the variable to match their naming strategy, and then it'll work for them. So I know we've had a lot of customers that have not been able to adopt container scanning because of this. If your customers are among those, this would be a great opportunity to circle back with them and revisit that discussion of container scanning because it should work a whole lot better for them now that we have this extra customization option in place. So again, that one's a little bit complicated, but I'm hoping it broadens our user base quite significantly for container scanning. Any questions on that stuff that's coming out in 14.6? And then upcoming work, we've continued to work on cluster image scanning, our production container scanning capability. That's been in alpha for the last several releases. It's still going to be in alpha for the 14.6 release, but you will notice some improvements. Among those, we're introducing a new operational vulnerabilities tab in the vulnerability report to split out the development vulnerabilities and the operational vulnerabilities. So that way, it makes it really easy to see which ones exist in production, essentially, and which ones exist only in development. That's the wrong screen I'm sharing. Let's try sharing the right one. Just a quick prototype of this for mockup. You'll see here we've got development vulnerabilities and operational vulnerabilities as two separate tabs is where we're headed. Actually, this might be in production already. We've been making some really good progress on this. We still have some work to do to clean things up on the back end because the certificate connection method is deprecated. We're trying to fully add support for this for the agent connection method for Kubernetes clusters. So we want to make sure to have that all the way done and in a good shape, a good state before we move this to full GA. But you will see this new tab show up. And already a lot of the capabilities there, we're getting close. I'm hoping to have that ready for the 14.7 release to be an official GA ready state. And those as well, you can manage via a security policy. So you can schedule those scans in production per a given interval or a cadence that you want to have those run. So those are really the update items that I had for this month. The last topic, what other issues and focus areas are you seeing in the field? Karen, do you have any to bring up or?
Actually, you're addressing both of them. It's fantastic. So we are seeing a lot of competition against white source. But by we, I mean me. So that's been heating up lately. And so, for us holistically, that is both our dependency scanner and our container scanner. And I did recently just have somebody ask about operational stuff. So that's awesome. That just helps our positioning to have a more thorough report. And then for SAST, fantastic. I'm getting asked about that a lot. So from a compliance perspective, specifically working with somebody in finance, they want to ensure that, SAST runs everywhere. So great first step. It's all gravy. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. From that compliance perspective too, it's worth noting that it's going to take us a little bit of time to get this done, but we are planning to move security policies. Right now, it's only available at the project level, but we're going to make that available next at the group level. And then once the workspace concept is introduced, we'll make that available at the workspace level as well, so that users can literally just go into one place for their entire GitLab workspace or namespace and require it for everything. I think is going to be really powerful down the road. You can do that today. It's a little bit of a pain if they've got a lot of projects. When you start to get into the thousands or tens of thousands of projects, it gets to be a lot to link everything up just right. But we are working on solving that problem as well.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to have our first step and all good.
Great. Well, thanks for your time today. And for anyone who's watching the recording, if you have other areas that you'd like to highlight that you're seeing in the field, please just drop those into our Slack channel or send those over async as well. Thanks. Have a good one.